The Arc subclass in Season of the Deep is arguably one of the strongest subclasses due to the sheer power that comes out of the artifact mods that we have been given this season, and this in turn allows us to take some of our favorite builds and make them even stronger. Liar's Handshake for the Arc Hunter is no exception here. Being able to channel your inner Titan and just run around punching everything while having a ton of health regeneration and melee damage is always a good time. Honestly, it's one of my favorite Arc Hunter builds in the game, and the artifact perks take it to another level. If you enjoyed the video, then dropping a free like and subscription to the channel helps me out a ton, and it's easy to do. Now let's get into it. Our subclass is going to be built around the gameplay loop of constantly being in the mix, punching enemies and defeating them while having a ton of survivability, fully refunding our dodge, and then dodging to get our melee charges back, and then while sprinkling in a few grenades here and there too, on top of our incredibly strong super. Gathering Storm is the super of our choice since it has some of the highest DPS in the game. Then Gambler's Dodge to refund our melee ability when dodging near enemies, Combination Blow to gain a stacking damage increase for our melee up to 3 times, and fully refunding our dodge, and then refunding a bit of health when we get a melee final blow. Pulse Grenades will be our grenade here as well. In our aspects, we're going to use both Lethal Current and Flow State. Lethal Current will give our next melee attack lunge range, jolt targets, and create a damaging aftershock after dodging, while also blinding any jolted target we hit with our melee. Flow State is going to make us amplified anytime we defeat a jolted target, and then while we are amplified, our dodge recharges quicker, while being more resilient while dodging and having a faster reload. For our 4 fragment slots, we're going to start with the Spark of Resistance to be more resistant to incoming damage when we are surrounded by 3 or more combatants. Then Spark of Shock to jolt targets with our grenades, Spark of Ions to create an ionic trace when we defeat a jolted target. Finally, we have Spark of Feedback to increase our melee damage when we take melee damage. Pairing this with our exotic Liar's Handshake will allow us to get a ton of melee damage on top of healing and having increased damage resistance. When we look at stats to focus into, as well as those spicy artifact mods that will really take this build to another level, here's what I recommend. Authorize mods Arc and Melee for cheaper mods, Electric Armor to stay amplified longer, Thunderous Retort to get an increase to our super damage when we are critically wounded, Amped Up for damage resistance while amplified, and Lightning Strikes twice to get increased grenade recharge for a short duration after throwing our grenade. For stats, I recommend focusing into Resilience for higher damage resistance, and Discipline for more grenades, and Recovery for faster health regeneration. We don't really need to worry about mobility or strength since our dodge and melee will refund each other. Plus, we get our dodge back faster anyways when we are amplified thanks to Flow State. Now, when we think about weapons we could bring along with this build, I always recommend going for arc weapons when possible. So a Volt Shot Brigand's Law or Ikelos SMG could be good. Or if you have a Found Verdict with 1-2 punch, that would be good as well. A 1-2 punch shotgun is always a good call with a melee build like this, since it gives our uncharged melee a 100% damage increase and our charged melee a 40% damage increase by hitting every pellet in a shot. But if you have an enhanced 1-2 punch shotty like the Ragenhall D, then you only need to hit just nearly every pellet. Tractor Cannon is an exotic you could bring along too if you wanted, just to apply suppression and make enemies more vulnerable to damage. You could even bring along the Legend of Acreus to take advantage of Trench Barrel and the melee. If you choose to leave out Tractor and even use Acreus, then any solid arc heavy like Hothead could be a good choice. Or if you wanted to bring an exotic in the heavy slot, Thunderlord would work just fine. Now let's take a look at our armor mods to power up this build even more. Our helmet is going to have a hands-on, dynamo, and arc siphon so we can get some more super energy from our melee final blows and dodging near enemies while creating orbs with arc weapon final blows. Our gauntlets are going to have heavy-handed, impact induction, and firepower. This will allow us to create orbs with melee and grenade final blows and grant us grenade energy from causing damage with a melee attack. We don't really need anything to give us dodge or melee energy back since we get that for free with our subclass anyways. The chest piece is going to have an emergency reinforcement so we can get more damage resistance from 3 of our armor charges if we get ourselves into a sticky situation, and then 1 or 2 damage resistances so we can have more survivability, which is a key part of this build since we are always up close and personal. The legs are going to have better already, recuperation, and elemental charge to give us health on an orb pickup and allow us to get an armor charge from ionic traces. Finally, our class item is going to have Reaper, Powerful Attraction, and Bomber so we can get some grenade energy back from dodging while also picking up orbs in a radius around us, and then also spawning an orb after a weapon final blow. If you're looking for a build that has incredible survivability while also packing a strong punch, no pun intended, then this one is for you. I really love this build. It's a ton of fun and is viable to use in any sort of content you want. If you try this out for yourself, let me know down in the comments below. And if you want some more content of mine, then check out my Twitch and TikTok, which will be linked in the description below. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.